This episode is brought to you by Doom: The Dark Ages. Early access is available May 13th on Xbox, PC, and PlayStation for those who pre-order the Premium Edition. I'm Kerry Stagmer, and we are the Blacksmiths of Baltimore Knife and Sword. We're going to be building some of your favorite things and fantastic objects you've never seen before. This is Man-at-Arms, Reforged. We're very excited to be partnering with Bethesda for an epic new entry in the Doom franchise. Doom: The Dark Ages is a dark fantasy sci-fi single-player experience that delivers the searing combat and over-the-top visuals of the incomparable Doom franchise, powered by the id Tech 8 engine. Whether you're a returning Doom player or new to the Doom franchise, this game is the perfect opportunity to jump in. In Doom, you play as the Doomslayer, and he wields a variety of different awesome weapons, ranging from maces and flails to a super shotgun and all sorts of other epic weapons that the Doom franchise is known for. But today we're going to be making the Slayer's shield saw to fight against the legions of hell. It's a truly awesome and deadly piece with many moving parts. We're going to be using an actual motor so that it functions in the demos. It's probably the most intense item we've ever made on the show because of the nature of the motorized spinning blade. To start this process off, we're going to go to the plasma table to cut out the round shield shape. Then the guys will start on the rest of the pieces.
We need him.
Butch the Slayer.
Now that the ring is cut, we will cut out the blades for the shield. These blades are going to be skeletonized, which means we've removed some of the material from the center to lighten them.
Now that we have the parts for our teeth cut from the plasma table, went ahead and tack welded the top one. Now we're going to shape it using the induction forge.
The induction forge that we use is a pretty fantastic item in the shop. It allows us to heat things without having any flame, either for bending as we're doing here or actual forging work. It's pretty wonderful in the heat of the summer.
So I'm spruing the blade mounts, and this is a 3D printed piece, and we've got to put the wax on it because the wax doesn't like to stick to the 3D printed model. So I put a little bit of beeswax, otherwise known as sticky wax, on the end here, and I stick them together and get them all melted into place. And I'm going to mount 3 of these onto this base.
Once we have the blade holders ready to go, now we've got the large external clamps. There's 8 of these around the outside of the shield. We're going to have to do some metal work on them and figure out how they fit, but we need to get them in one piece to start.
Earlier you watched me shape this top blade with the induction forge. I went ahead and tack welded the front, And now we're going to TIG weld the two pieces together.
John now goes to the Vader sander and begins sharpening these blades. Some of the angles really are just simply bevels, but obviously these things are pointy and they are going to rip and tear. So Lauren has finished spruing these up for me. These are the clamps that go around the blade, and they're printed in PLA plastic. I'm going to be repeatedly dipping this. It's going to have a couple of slurry coats, and then I'll be going in and adding some sand to the outside. That sand will fuse in when we high temperature burn these out at 16 to 1700 degrees Fahrenheit.
Now that John has the blades shaped and welded, I'm going to go ahead and use the induction forge to heat treat just the tip.
So, we need a power plant. Works great. Time to take it apart.
We've elected to go with a Stihl chainsaw, a 151 arborist saw. It is very powerful for its size, but it is also pretty expensive. Totally worthwhile. We know we're going to have a lot of weight. We've got 18 blades going around the outside of the shield, and we need as much power as possible. We're working in 6061 aluminum. We're going to be casting it directly into the shell molds that we've created with all of these parts. It's a lot to go together. There's over 100 parts in the outside of these rings. So one of the earliest decisions that we made about this was to not actually use a chain and to use a ring. We can spin a ring, but to pull a chain, that chain is actually going to have an incredible amount of drag and be very difficult. There are 18 blades, 9 on the inner ring, 9 on the outer ring, but we can run them on a bearing. It's going to allow us to use a little bit less power and really get this thing up to speed.
So now I got to make the rollers for the ring, and what's got to happen is I got to take the aluminum, pocket them for bearings, and groove them with a grooving tool to carry and locate the rings themselves so the chains can't move around inside the shield.
Now that the aluminum is cooled, Andrew can break the shell apart. These are not super complex parts, so we will basically just beat on the material itself on that button, the extra material, and it'll break apart the shell so that we can get to the castings underneath. It does seem like we have a lot of form already in the shield from the original spinning, but we have to have more form and we have to have more dimension to the entire piece. We're going to be using one of the beating machines with what we call a step die, and that'll allow us to create multiple levels in the existing piece of metal before we add in the outer rings. So what I'm going to do is just mark a concentric circle around the outside of this. Then we're going to be stepping that in one direction, flipping it over, marking the outside of the shield, and stepping it in the other direction. And that'll loft the entire piece and give us more of the form we need for the completed shield. So this is our outer step here. We're going to create an inner step that then lofts this piece even differently. It's actually going to be going down in, so it's pushing the shield back in and creating a standing ridge here. Now we have to emboss the shield in a manner that's going to support the aluminum clamps that we cast. So I take the clamp and just lay it on the shield and draw around it. I'll offset that just so that I have a little more space. Kind of gives us a shelf. You'll be able to see that in the final piece, and it is, of course, in the game.
We have our cast aluminum overlays for the blade assembly. They'll be screwed into place, but for additional security, I want to drill them and put a steel pin.
Often when 3D printing, you're printing these things hollow just because you're trying to get the general form or the look. We needed this to be strong, so we've printed this with a very thick wall and a 50% infill. We weren't sure at the time because we had to work so quickly how we were going to locate this on the shield. But now we know we're doing 4 large bolts through the rear body of the shield, so Andrew's going to go ahead and drill them. We'll drill in the plastic and then set large bolts in to hold this entire thing together.
Okay, now that we have our blade assembly rough fit to the shield with our bearings and pulleys, we want to test and see how it works.
Paul's now taking all of these final assemblies and getting them to have the right look. Not only do they have to have, generally the right color and all match, but we want it to look like it does in the game. So it'll get a little beat up and touched back up and should look fantastic. When I first played Doom back in the 90s, I was hooked right away. But I never would have guessed that 30 years later I'd be making a motorized shield saw from the latest installment in a long and storied Doom franchise. This is one of the coolest functional pieces we've brought to life for this show, and I can't wait to see how it'll tear things up in the demo.
The Slayer has been activated.
Thanks for watching, and thanks to Bethesda for sponsoring this video. Make sure to leave us a comment letting us know what you think of the build and what you want to see us make in future episodes. And make sure to click the link below in the description so you can pre-order the premium edition of Doom: The Dark Ages and to get early access beginning May 13th, my birthday.